Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Money Mindset Hub podcast. So I'm your host, Carla Townsend, and I'm a money mindset and success coach for female entrepreneurs. So I support women in eliminating their money blocks and monetizing their genius online. And today I have an incredible guest, Ashu, who is a spiritual business coach for spiritual entrepreneurs. And she helps them make 5 and 6 figures through using a scoop of business strategy and a topping of spirituality. So she's also an expert in human design and integrating spirituality into business. She uses intuitive guidance, channeling, inner child reparenting, and shadow work to guide her clients to make the most aligned business decisions. She is especially good at integrating spiritual aspects and spiritual topics into business to create strategies that align with spiritual entrepreneurs that do not feel like a cookie cutter method. Ashu, I'm so excited to interview you today. So Ashu, I'm going to pass it to you and you just give us a little bit of an intro into you and what you do and how you ended up working for yourself.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me here. And you are just like the most lovely person to talk to. It's so easy to talk to you that we can just get carried away in conversations. But I think you just explained most of what I do because that's like my one-liner thing that I use a scoop of business strategy and a topping of spirituality because first I love food. So I love using food examples in my content, in my frameworks and everything. But for everyone here, I am Ashu. I am a spiritual business coach. And the reason why I'm specifically a business coach for spiritual entrepreneurs is because the way you might say, yeah, you have worthiness wounds, you're not able to receive. And that is so heightened for spiritual entrepreneurs because there's an intersection of multiple trauma experiences that are going on there. So not only is it whatever they've gone through right now, but they also have witch wounds where witches were burned previously for speaking up. And then there's another intersection of trauma, which is like being a woman. So I mostly work with women entrepreneurs. So their own sections of I'm not deserving of this, I need to be doing more to be worthy of money and everything. So I especially work with this because I had my own time understanding and integrating that I am a spiritual person. How I started, since this is a money related podcast, so I am going to talk about money related things here. I was doing my bachelor's in India and I had gotten like a 50% scholarship for a university, was above average, I'll say. And I had options from universities that were more affordable, but I was like, this is away from my house. I'm gonna be free. Let me go for this one. And there's a 50% scholarship. And my parents were happy about it. They let me go there. And in India, there's the culture of you do not pay your own tuition fee, your parents pay it for you. So I was like, oh God, there's so much burden and like lack of independence. So I thought I should give up everything. But then I had this one teacher, blessing in disguise. He was like, you know what, this feels like a burden on your shoulder, this scholarship. And I was like, well, I manifested. What are you saying? I manifested this scholarship. How dare you say that? But even when you have manifested something, it can feel like a burden for you later on if you've not integrated it properly. So I was like, what if I could make so much money and I'm earning zero? 18-year-old in uni in India, I was like, what if I could make so much money that I can pay my university fee even if I do not have the scholarship? And then I don't have to listen. Like accountability related to why have you not like maintained your score and everything. So I took a number and that was a very exaggerated number. I didn't need that much money, but I was like, oh, let's exaggerate it as much as possible, include the hostel fees, the money for day to day and everything. I did that. And this was my goal for Jan 2020. Before I knew what was going to happen, that is the goal I set for myself that I am going to make this much money in 1 year and pay my own university fee. And then we know COVID happened and everything went into lockdown. Before that, I didn't think I could do a business. I hated the idea of business. I was like, to be creative all the time? I'm not a creative person, let's just do a job. I was doing all these internships. I did a market research for 4 days, stood in the sun, asking people to fill out a form, and I made very little money from it. But I was like, oh, I'm making money. This is the way to go, hustle. So I went back home when everything shut down and I was like doing my own thing, getting internships, but I hated it. I hated working for someone else and I didn't realize it. I thought maybe I'm not finding the right manager or right work to do. And at that time, I had this page on Instagram, which is right now called Listening Stories Untold. It was an outlet for me. From 2017 onwards, I was posting on and off self-development content because I was reading so much, I had to put it out somewhere. So I was just posting on and off, and I was like, let's get serious with this. People make money as a life coach. What if that could be a thing? And I remember at the same time, I had a senior from university reach out to me and say they're starting a startup. He's like, you'll be a co-founder. It will be so great. And that's the same time I have decided I'm going to make money from my page. And I said, no. And he's like, okay, all the best. And now I make more money than him. So that's a different conversation.
Oh my God. So you said that you had this money goal in mind. Can you share what it was? What was it when you started?
I'll have to convert it because in Indian rupees, if I say it's 300K, and you'll be like, 300K? But that's nothing for AUD and USD. So I'm just going to say 300.
Why you do that? It was so interesting that at that point, though, you realized that you're not there to be working for someone else. You had that entrepreneurial spirit where it was like,
Yes.
I don't really like being employed by someone else. I want to be creative. But you mentioned a block there that comes up, and I had the same block. I'm not a creative person. It was
Yeah.
that block. And it couldn't be further from the truth. But I think it's our own definition at the time of what creative meant. And for me, at the time when I used to say, I'm just not that creative, that meant to me someone who was like really good at arts and music and
Yes.
exploring. And it's so not, it has any different meaning depending on what you're doing.
Exactly. If I have to look at myself today, I am the most creative person ever, and I was actually good at art. I was actually good at painting, writing. I had a book published. I was writing poems. I was writing blog posts, and I was like, I'm not creative. What are you even talking about? So I just converted it. It comes around to 3,600 USD for the year. That would mean I would be able to pay off everything, and that's an exaggerated amount. I didn't need so much. So I started with like offering sessions and everything. And first month, my goal was initially like that 3,600 was like too much. Like I can't make so much. So I decided let's start with making 200, which turns out in USD $241. Let's start with that. And in the first month, I made $30. The next month, I ended up making $181. The next month, I never hit that exact number that I was like aiming for before. But then I ended up, after that, I ended up making $640 in the month. And this happened in a span of 4 months itself that my business took off. And then $1,208 I made in December 2020. So while everyone was crying about things, I was making money and I was so happy about it because in Jan, I was able to pay my own university fee.
I think it's so important that you share that too, because often no one shares when they first started out how much or how little they were making. People see success as like the pinnacle of success. Like when people have made it, people pay attention because we think at the beginning, like, oh, that's not enough. I can't share that. And
Yeah.
even sharing dollars and how much you're making could be something that's so triggering for so many, especially your family, for instance. Like if you start out earning your parents or your family and who you grew up with, that can feel really icky for a lot of people. So
Still don't tell my parents how much I make. I just say, yeah, I'm fine here. I'm making it like I have got money to survive. Don't worry. But I don't tell in detail because I know the kind of money programs that they are running. Because I have tried. I told them, oh, you know what? I made this much in one day. I was very excited about it once. And the first thing he said was, let's buy a car. I don't even need a car. I didn't even have a license. I would have to learn everything, and it was going to be a depreciating asset. I have studied business, bachelor's in business administration. I was like, this is not even an asset. I am going to go to Australia later on. What help is that car going to be of? So that's when I realized, okay, I need to stop telling people because being an open Ajna center in human design, I get influenced very easily. So I was like, do I need a car. Maybe I should get one. And Ashu, that's a very dumb decision. You don't need a car. So I totally get what you're saying, the trigger, because I saw that trigger happening in real life with friends, family, and I had to tell my parents, don't tell anyone how much I make. Don't tell that I do something. Just don't tell. Because I had someone calling me. I remember, I don't know where, either I heard it in an event we met in. I had people calling and my relatives saying, can you give this much money to me? And it was a big amount. And they're big adults. I was like 19-year-old or something. They're like, can you give us this much money? We need to go somewhere. And I was like,
Yeah, right.
Mom, please stop telling people how much I make. They don't need to know.
But that's also a big block as well, and a big fear for
Yes.
many, especially when they're starting out or they do start to see some success and monetary success, they start to feel like, well, if people know they're going to treat me differently, they're going to come after it, they're going to want to take it, then I feel like
Yes.
I'm obliged to support them and give them money. And it's so interesting because I have heard some really successful entrepreneurs who make millions of dollars a year say, I'm not responsible to pay for my family and my friends, and also have done enough money mindset work to understand that just giving someone money when they're asking, obviously, there's different scenarios too, right? There's different scenarios, okay? So it's a little bit of a like, take what you want from it. But they said that they're not responsible to give them the money, because when you're just giving people money, especially people that don't have a solid relationship with money, they don't have any awareness of their blocks
Absolutely.
around money or their attitudes and beliefs around money. They don't know how to use it in a way that is going to be supportive of them going forward. It can then create this dependency on the person giving the money. And
Yes.
again, that's not healthy. And I thought it was a really interesting way to hear about it, especially from someone making millions of dollars a year, was no, I don't want to create any dependency. And then I've heard others that pay dividends to their friends and family based on what they're earning and things. And some of their family has said, no, I don't want it. I don't want your money. It's such
Yeah,
an interesting
my
conversation.
my thought is I will only give money to a person I love. If I don't love you, I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna give you my money because it's like you spending your time on the things that you love. You want to spend your money on the things that you actually love instead of just spending it on things that you think you need in order of people pleasing and everything. So when it comes to buying gifts or spoiling, I don't like this word, but this is how people understand like spoiling my loved ones. I go all out, and I'm like, people are like, wait, did you just keep aside that amount of money for 2 days for this person? I was like, yeah, I love them. I don't care if they don't talk to me in 5 years, but right now in this moment, I love this person, and I don't. You take this money, you buy. I have actually like the K-drama vibes. I took a friend of mine into a bookstore. I was like, you are not coming out of this bookstore unless you've picked out 10 books without looking at the price tags, and you don't have to. I paid for it. I was like, I wish someone did that for me, but it feels even nicer when I can do it for someone else.
Yeah. And that shows your love language, right? Is gifting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's really interesting too, is around understanding people's love languages. So you know how you can make them feel appreciated and seen and loved. And it doesn't always necessarily have to be with a monetary value, right? But that also ties into a really brilliant point around spending your money in a way that you value. So when you spend money out of alignment, it's when you feel bitter about it, when you regret it, when you don't feel good. But when you're spending money in alignment with your values, that's when you're so lit up, and you'll continue to do that because you're spending money on the things that you actually want to spend your money on, not things that you necessarily have to or think that you should in order to impress people that probably don't even care. So it's so interesting. Like, you touched on so many points there. And I know we spoke a lot about it on your podcast when I was on your podcast too, which I'll have to link that in the show notes for everyone to go and have a listen to, because we go into a lot more of that money mindset side of things. You touched on human design as well. So I know I want to talk about this. So integrating your human design to actually be able to attract money instead of chase it. What can you tell us about that?
So I usually talk about it in the business sense because I'm a very businessy or financial oriented person. But think of it like this, like as a manifesting generator, people might usually you're told have a niche. Pick one thing, do one thing, don't do a lot of things. Even for like don't do multitasking. Even in general situations, people say don't do multitasking. Now, where it is dangerous, you should not do it, makes sense. But if you keep telling this message over and over again, a person might end up thinking that I'm only supposed to do one thing. So if I have these other desires popping up, I need to stop. I should just not do it. I should not have these other desires. Whereas that is the key for making money as a manifesting generator. I'm talking heavily about this is because I am manifesting generator and I thought I have to pick a niche because I studied from a business school and this is what they teach you. And I hated the idea of business because the way I've learned it. So I was like, no, one thing. But I know I've made money when I have been like all over the place. Like I have, let's do that, let's do that. So that is how you can end up making more money. But another thing of that would be understanding. So everyone has one superpower. Okay, like a word that I can explain for each of the types in human design. And when you focus on that, you end up making more money because you're basically more in alignment with your human design. Now, how does that unlock money? Is basically imagine that it's telling you this is a road, you can walk on it, this is the path to get from Melbourne to Sydney. And now you are stuck taking detours. That is how it will feel like if you are moving against your human design and trying to do things in a way that are not so flowy, that make you feel you're not self-themed. So in human design, there's a not self-theme and there is a sign. So if you're feeling you're not self-themed, that is most probably because you're not following your design. So for manifesting generators and generators, it's frustration. Every time I'm frustrated in my business, I know it's a sign that there is some energy leak, a gap in my business that I can fix. And that brings me more money or helps me hold more money because I'm fixing that energy leak. So now I can hold more money in my business.
Yeah. And I know for projectors, because I'm a projector, it is
Yes.
bitterness. Yeah, that's definitely something that when you realize this, it starts to make it so much more obvious the times too where you go, oh, that's why I felt like that. Like I felt bitter about that. I regretted that. It's because you weren't following alignment there. And it's so interesting when you talk about the human design types too. You know, as a reference point for everybody, you do have, like Ashu said, there's the 5 different types. And depending on what you are, you do have a key theme that you're trying to attain in life. For me, it's success. And
Yes.
you, like you said, you have those not self things where you feel a emotion that doesn't make you feel good, right? But
Yeah.
I love what you said too, because funnily enough, me being a projector, I seem to attract a lot of MGs.
That
A
happens
lot
a
of,
lot. Yeah.
yes.
My coaches are projectors and my clients are projectors. So it's like that always happens because we're always finding the people who will complete certain gates to help us complete certain channels in our design and make us function more properly or more flowily, basically intentional borrowing of energy.
Right. That's what it is. Because I found it so interesting when I find out what my clients are. I'm like, oh, another MG, another MG. I'm like, there's so many of them.
You
And
are one of the most empowered projectors I have come across, and I love it.
oh, thank you. That's, do you know what? To give everyone a bit of a backstory, we did actually meet in person in Melbourne at an event with our mentor, Ruby. And it was just like, I don't know, we just had this like connection and it was cool. It was so cool how it happened. And then we went on and I was on your podcast and now you're coming on mine and we're going to collaborate. Ashley is going to be a guest speaker in my membership, the Matrix membership soon. And isn't it just beautiful when you actually step outside your comfort zone and you go to those things, you start to attract like-minded people. And it really is such a big thing with your energy. Like you feel people's energy, especially when you're in the room.
I want to touch upon that. I don't know if this example is going to be good or not, but like for that event, I actually had my whole decision making process to whether to sign up for that or not using my authority in human design. Okay. And now that decision, because it was in alignment with my authority, which is emotional, which I slept over it, asked questions and everything. Then when I signed up, I made these connections. I am now on podcast episodes. Let's say those podcast episodes go to someone who would like to work with me and then I ended up getting a client. So I'm basically attracting money. It might have come in a long time, but it's because I followed that nudge, even to reach out to you and say, would you like to be on my podcast? Right? That was after I slept over and saw that, yeah, this is something I really want. I really want this person to be on my podcast. So this is how like small, small things you do in your daily life that help you align with your human design.
Absolutely. And it's always about following that nudge, that inner guidance system, our inner voice, essentially. That's what it is. And when you do have a nudge, you don't necessarily know what that's going to lead to. It's just, and you're not actually thinking about that even in the sense of like, oh, I'll do this because then that'll give me that result. It's not about that. That's totally different. This is about going,
Absolutely. This is
I need
something
this nudge.
I want to talk about so
Go.
much because and this is not even related to human design, but I did this today morning and it reminded me. So the Ho'oponopono exercise, I absolutely hate it. It's where you have to like forgive someone who did wrong to you, and it's like, how dare you? So that comes up in my head. And the first time I actually intentionally did it was because in ninth grade, someone had stolen my story that I had written and won like a first prize in an inter-tri-city competition. So I was still carrying it. I hate it, but I'll release it. Something had turned off and the clients are not coming, but that was not on my mind. My energy is still leaking to this timeline, this past time. So I decided to close that leak and I ended up getting two clients in 48 hours after a long period of not getting clients. And it only works when your mind is not in, I am going to get clients from this. When you're actually doing it to release something inside of you that's holding you back, just so that you're at peace. Not everything has to be about clients and money, it has to be about what you are feeling in that moment. Maybe you felt neglected, rejected, abandoned, whatever it is, and like allowing yourself to fulfill those needs. And when you do that, you're whole. Universe is like, she's ready, let's go. So it could come in any way.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that forgiveness piece is huge, especially in the money mindset work. I love that you touched on that too, because it does, like, that forgiveness work, even though it can seem like it's not something you want to do. Like, why would I want to forgive that person? No, the reason why you want to forgive someone for doing wrong by you or making you feel pain, shame, guilt, sadness, whatever it might be, one, that has then become a shadow of you, right? That then goes into the whole shadow aspect and the shadow work that needs to happen there to release that pain, shame, guilt, those feelings. But at the same time, you're actually giving energy to it. You're still giving energy to those emotions and that significant event that happened to you, whether you realize it consciously or not. When you can tap into it and then you can wholeheartedly forgive, and it's kind of like a forgiveness for self. It's not to forgive, obviously with complete respect to trauma and things like that. We need to forgive people to release that energy within us, not to forgive what they've done necessarily. It's to forgive for self, to say, I'm past this. That happened, but I will let that go. And that will no longer continue to haunt me, even though, whatever they did might have been terribly wrong. It's never about forgiving them. It's not like that. So when we're talking about forgiveness here, and even in a money mindset side of things, that forgiveness is not necessarily because the person did wrong and forgiving them for what they did. That's their journey. You're forgiving purely to release that energy within your system so that you can move freely and it isn't something that's going to continue to block you.
The definition of forgiveness is very like messed around with. I like to use those two words separately. It's like for me to give you back. So this is the activity I'm doing is for myself to give you back what I don't need to carry anymore. This was yours, you take it back, and this is for me. So I like to break those words with forgive. Who is it for? It's for me. Who am I giving? I can be giving it to them, and I can also be giving it to myself as like giving myself peace. It's all for me. It doesn't have to mean that I am just like accepting what you did is okay. It's not an acceptance of what they did is okay. It's an acceptance of it doesn't have to control me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. So let's go into the chakras a little bit and how they can actually help you receive more money, clients, and opportunities as well.
Absolutely. So this is I'm very excited about this one because my human design era is like slowly going down, right? As a manifesting generator, picking up different things at different times. So for chakras, if I have to put certain things like examples for people to understand, every single thing that you're doing in your business or related to money, anything could be related to or associated to a chakra. We usually think that, oh, money, it's heart chakra. No, that's not how it works. So if you're not able to talk about your money, then there's a throat chakra block because you're afraid of talking about it. If you're not able, like when you make a savings account, right, or you make like a monthly recurring revenue map out, like, okay, I'm going to get these payments in the next few months, that's basically your root chakra. That activity is associated with your root chakra, but it's going to make you feel safe. It will make you feel like I am protected, I'm taken care of. That is the kind of relationship you're building with money. When you are confident in your ability to make money, or like some people, they make money, but they're still like, I don't have enough money for this. So that confidence ability is not there with the money. That is related to your solar plexus. So your solar plexus is not really activated in a proper way. It's imbalanced. Sometimes it's dim, sometimes it's over. So you're overly confident and spending and thinking it's gonna come without an actual plan. That's like the overly side of solar plexus. And then if you're not spending money in a way that feels fun, if you're not feeling fun with money, you feel like this person is so annoying. Like if you think of money, it's like this is so annoying. That is your sacral not having that pleasure, not having that fun, not having that creative. Like, how can I creatively spend my money to have fun with it? So that's your sacral. Heart is all about receiving. I told my client once to use an affirmation that my people pay me double than what I ask for. And she was like, no, she just like went in this panic mode. I was like, yeah, I actually have had people who've paid me double for what I've asked for. And there are people who other people have received more money from, and they would just give as gifts. And if you're not able to receive a gift, even if it's not money, because in Indian cultures or in most cultures where there's like tradition of giving money, we have like in weddings, the first instinct that we are taught, it's like a birth programming, we are supposed to say, and no, 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 this is not needed, and then you take the money. So this is like something that is programmed, so the no, I don't need this gift. You don't have to do this. So that seeps into everything. You're not able to receive gifts, compliments, help from people. This also seeps into your relationship, not being able to receive the kind of love in a relationship you want, where the guy is taking care of you at times, opening the doors and everything becomes too much for them, right? And it still comes up in friendships as well. Oh, this friend bought me dinner. This happened with me recently. My first instinct was, I need to do something for him back. I need to do something. That's like, oh, wait. I can receive it. I can truly fully receive it. If he didn't want to give the money, then he wouldn't have. So he just did, and I can enjoy it. So that comes to your heart chakra. If you're not able to see the future, like I don't see money coming in anyhow, that's your seeing vision comes from your third eye. So your third eye is not able to see, it's blocked. It's like, "Oh, money cannot come to me ever." And if you're not even able to download ideas to create money in this reality, that's your crown coming at the top. Like, I don't know how money can come to me, it's just my job right now. That is the crown being blocked because of all the programming that might have happened or limiting beliefs. So that's how all the chakras play a beautiful role in helping you unblocking them and calling in more money with every chakra unblock.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And something crazy happens when you do go through that, like that unblocking. And it's like everything opens up. All of a sudden, before we started recording, we were talking about how I had chakra clearing done in November. And I had felt like my crown was blocked, my throat was blocked. Like I felt so many blockages. It was just like this heavy energy. So that's kind of how it felt to me. Now, for anyone listening that's like, what the hell? Like, I've heard about chakras. Okay, I can see how they're sort of connected, but how do I even know I'm blocked? How does someone notice that they actually have a block? I know for me personally, it was literally that feeling of heaviness in my throat, noticing that I wasn't getting downloads. Like, I'm a very intuitive person and I would often get downloads. And then I noticed, hang on a second, I'm obviously too busy in my mind. Something's going on here. I need some extra support. So that's how it felt for me. But how would you say to anyone listening, how could they identify whether or not they had a blocked chakra?
So if in general sense we have to talk about it, like I could take an example of the throat. So easiest way, you will have a sore throat. I have had clients right before a launch, they will have a sore throat. I lost my voice literally for 2, 3 weeks. I could not speak. Right now, even if I speak like for a long time, it starts hurting and I'm reminded of that pain. It's like, oh, I was not able to speak. That was because something was blocked. And also, it sometimes is about the fact that you're supposed to go through a big release and it's happening all in like a planned manner, because right now I just had like a very big good launch for a program where I'm teaching sales in relation to spirituality, like telepathic selling and everything for the very first time. I've never integrated all of this before. So, of course, makes sense. My throat was like, let's do a big release and let her not speak for 2 weeks at all. So that happened. So if you have sore throats and everything, throat issues, throat hurts, right? That is basically your throat being blocked. If you have headaches and everything, so that could be your third eye, or like depending on where you're. So if your forehead hurts, then that could be your third eye paining quite a lot. If it hurts on the top of the head, that could be your crown. So physical pains are a very important sign of the thing being blocked. But in another ways, it could be, I usually work with the heart chakra quite a lot. Heart chakra is like my thing. So if I were to walk you through a situation, and right now I said, oh God, I love you so much. You know what? Here, take this gift of, maybe I got you something you've been eyeing out. Maybe it's a bag, a luxury bag you've been looking for, or shoes. Like for me, it's anime merch. So if I bought something, like someone bought an anime gift for me, is your first reaction like, no, what was the need of this? Oh God, I don't know how to react. And please let me do something for you. Any of these sentences or all of these sentences means that there is a block in the heart chakra, even if you are saying it subconsciously, even if you don't mean it. There is somewhere you are believing in it, right? So we want to remove that and we want to be like, thank you. I love that. And actually expressing joy for compliments, gifts, because usually this happens with compliments. Right? Someone's like, you look so pretty. No, you look prettier. Why do you have to diminish your value in order for someone else to look pretty? You can say, yeah, thank you. I feel really great about the earrings I put today. And you also look so pretty. Powerful together, like power couples, but power women. If you're putting yourself down constantly. This is also a protective mechanism, by the way, which is taught, especially to people of color. Do not show your talents, but that was for safety in previous times. Because if you were more intelligent, then people would pick on you and you would be highlighted, and people of color don't want to be highlighted at that time to be safe. But now it's okay. I know it's not safe totally, but it's not that bad. But we still are living with those coping mechanisms which were adaptive at some time, but they are not adaptive anymore. They're maladaptive. They are asking you to tone yourself down in a place where it is safe for you to open, but you think there is some imaginary threat. This is something I've been studying recently, so it comes up. But yes, so your heart chakra will be you not able to receive gifts, compliments, money. If you were this close to closing a client and your thoughts are like, maybe when I send the price, she will say no. Heart chakra block. Confidence block also. So solar chakra block as well. If the person is this close to paying and then suddenly something happens and they back out, or then you made a lot of money and then there's a refund issue coming up, heart chakra block, because you're not able to hold it. Your capacity is not the way you would talk about money, holding, receiving, that comes here in the heart chakra. So your heart space feels like you actually would feel like your heart twisting into a knot. It's like, I cannot take this. This is too much. And then suddenly something happens and now you don't have that money anymore. So that is what the blocks would look like.
Yeah, so many things. I know in this conversation, people listening are going to be like, oh my God, where are all these blocks coming up? Maybe they've worked through some of them, but I feel like they always come up and there's always a new lesson to learn. Even when you're talking about the receiving. Receiving is one of the hardest things, I think, for majority of my clients too. And it's definitely something that I've had to go through as well. I could not receive a compliment to save myself growing up. I could not accept the fact that when someone would say something nice. And then I realized, oh, that is linked to money. That is linked to success. That is linked to me feeling whole. That is linked to me seeing my own worth. There are so many things here that I know it's taking me back. It's definitely taking me back to a lot of things, but I know at the same time, when it comes to any of these blockages, just because you work through a block doesn't mean that you're necessarily done and dusted, right? That's never going to come up again. There's always new layers. It's like an onion. Blocks are like an onion. First off, you're like, oh, okay, there's the first layer.
That's exactly what I was thinking. They make you cry. When you cut them, they make you cry. And you could freeze those blocks. So when you put the onion in water and put it inside a freezer or something, and then you try to cut it again, it doesn't hurt you as much. That's basically once you've regulated yourself and then you're working through that block. But mostly when you cut an onion for the first time, you're going to cry. Even my friend was cutting an onion yesterday and she had cut that same onion before. We are just like single people living together. So it takes one onion lasts a long time. And she still was like, oh man, this is hurting again. So it's just like exactly a block is exactly like an onion.
100%. It really, really is. So this conversation could continue going, of course, but I can't wait for you to come into the membership anyway and talk all more in depth about the chakras, because that's so interesting. So anyway, Ashu, where can everyone find you?
This is the most difficult question for me because I have too many places and I have to remember them all. So, first would be I also have a podcast. It's called Your Spiritual Business Coach. That is where I talk definitely around topics of human design, like how I fucked up an opportunity, how I did this, that. So, that I have my Instagram. That is where I reside. Literally, that's my house. Instagram is Listening Stories Untold. On Instagram, you'll find the other links. I also am on TikTok, again, Listening Stories Untold. So you would want to definitely go on to YouTube. All the links are there on my profile. So I guess if you just know my Instagram, that will be great. Just go into the link in bio. I have some free chakra meditations in my YouTube for each chakra to help you release the blocks and also feel more confident and balance them out. And I have a newsletter called the Juicy Inside Scoop, where I become the most vulnerable self. You see the scoop and the juicy side of things, and detailed breakdowns of my launches, what's happening when a client asked for a refund, how ugly things can get. So that is where I like to give the gossip. So that is the place to be.
Beautiful. I'll put all the links in the show notes anyway, but I just want to thank you so much for coming on. And I'm so glad that we did connect at that event and we both got the nudge to go, because then look what has unfolded ever since.
Thank you so much for inviting me here, Carla. I loved it so much. It's fun to talk to you. I feel energized after talking to you. It is very interesting.
No, I'm so glad. That's such a good conversation. And yeah, you've just got me so intrigued. My mind is going like a million miles an hour right now with all these different things that are coming up. But yeah, I loved all of it because it is just so true, and it's something that everyone will come back to as well, like understanding where these blockages are happening, understanding to listen to their body, to feel those nudges, to trust those nudges, to also notice where in your body do you feel like you're physically held back, or maybe there is pain, or maybe there's something that needs to be processed. But yeah, just know that all the blocks are like an onion, like we said, and you'll continually move through them, but it does get so much easier. So thank you again for coming on and sharing your beautiful gifts.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, I would absolutely love it if you could please leave me a 5-star review and let me know your thoughts. Remember, everything you desire and deserve is just on the other side of your own resistance. So take that next step.